welcome and how exciting to have you all on the floor. We're so pleased to have Julie here to do a walk and talk, but first and foremost I'll just do acknowledgement of country of the land that we're gathered on today. Our First Nations, Gubbi-Gubbis and the Jinnabara peoples, who are our first artists, our first singers, our first dancers, our first sharers of culture, and they continue doing that with the elders that have passed that have handed down knowledge, the elders that are here who are handing on to the new ones that are coming through, and they keep sharing with us constantly, and they have such a connection spiritually, economically, emotionally to this land, and they share that with such joy. And we're really privileged to work on such beautiful country of the Sunshine Coast, the best place in the world, I have to say. I'm just going to do a quick blurb on Julie because you may not know Julie.
2 words only.
2 words only, she's fabulous. Julie has an extensive career in cultural places. I've known her when she was the head of Australian art at the Queensland Art Gallery of Modern Art. But she has always been an exceptionally well-known curator, writer, scholar in all arts, but particularly Australian art. So we were really privileged and very excited to have her as our judge for the prize this year. So we all know that I can talk forever, so I'm going to hand over and get off the stage. All right, thank you. Big hand for Julie.
Thank you, Jo, and it's wonderful to be working with you and with this fabulous team here at Caloundra Regional Gallery. Do come in, don't be strangers. And also to say that it's wonderful to be on Gubbi-Gubbi country, very, very beautiful country, as we know. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to walk around, but I should say that we have the artists with us. So we have Todd Fuller, who is the winner. Yes, we have Todd Fuller, we have Alsa, McHugh, we have Hyun, and we have Amanda Weston all with us. Who else in the audience is an exhibiting artist who's in the exhibition?
Kellie.
Sorry? Kellie, great. Who else? Who else? Where's our lovely young woman from Victoria? No, not you, Elsa, the other one. Okay, what I want to do is turn this into a small Q&A because we have the artists here. I want to just say it was a wonderful opportunity to be asked to judge the prize. There had been a pre-selection. There were more than 400 entries into this prize and 40 were chosen. And the standard is really very high. Just to quote Todd Fuller, I think it was you, Todd, who said last night that exhibitions like this can sometimes look like a dog's breakfast. That's quote unquote. But the team had made an excellent and wonderful exhibition. And I think that's right. Such interesting work and such a diversity of work. So without further ado, Todd, I'm going to ask if you'll join me because I think really you want to hear from the artists. Now, this is Todd's work here, and we've established last night how long it was. And I'm going to ask Todd a few questions, but also to say that we have 5 people at least with Kellie, and we'll have a quick kind of go around, and then we'll have a bit of time at the end for more questions. There are a couple of seats down here if anybody needs to take a weight off. So it's a shame to see seats unused, but anyway. And the first thing I'll do is to say, Todd, you're evidently a draftsman. Can you talk to us about how drawing is at the core of your practice? Because people can see. Who hasn't seen this before? Okay, there's a few people who haven't seen it. It's absolutely fantastic, and Todd will tell us how drawing features as the core of your practice.
Thank you. So this animation is 2,400 stills, which are all hand drawn and then weaved together. Drawing is a huge part of my life and my practice. As Julie mentioned, I would call myself a draftsman. I have a sketchbook with me all the time. It's how I process ideas, it's how I understand the world, it's how I communicate. And I think drawing for me is the most democratic medium. It's the most efficient medium, and it's democratic in that anyone can do it, and hopefully in anyone being able to access it, people find it very easy to receive as a medium.
Did you always draw?
Absolutely. I've said it a few times that I was that weird kid at school who used to draw all the time, but I wasn't everyone had that best kid in class who was the amazing drawer. he was my best friend, and I was so jealous. And he's now a principal, and I'm still drawing, so excellent. I won.
Did you get into trouble from the teachers for drawing all the time?
No, I'm a goody two-shoes, and I never get. I was that kid who, if I got into trouble, I would be so heartbroken for days over the tiniest reprimand. So no, I wasn't that. I would only draw when it was appropriate, not in the margins of my math book. That's very normal.
Too good to be true. But this, I think you can hear me, can't you?
Yes.
This is called No Use Crying Over Torn Lace. And that's a line from Coco, who's this fabulous drag queen. And can you tell us a little bit about how you got Coco to agree to the interview and a little bit about the backstory? Because some of the content here is tough, and it shows, Todd, that for a goody two-shoes, you're not going to back away.
Can you hear me if I don't use the mic as well?
No, but please do use it.
Oh, use the mic, okay. See, I just got in trouble. So this particular incident actually happened in 2017 during the marriage equality debate. And what happened was, during that period, a lot of the bullies and those who are homophobic felt like they had a megaphone. They felt like they had a right to express homophobic views due to this political framework. And so what happened is hate crimes significantly increased across the country. But in Oxford Street, which you would think is the safest place of all, they were exponentially increased. And so this is the story of Ivan Flynn. Basically, Ivan had finished a night out with his friends, and he headed towards the kebab store, and the 3 drag queens had also finished performing that night. That was Coco Jumbo, Ivy League, and Vibe. And these group from Western Sydney of men were standing outside the kebab store basically saying, don't eat that, you'll get AIDS on your pizza, and all sorts of other nasty, unrepeatable things. Young Ivan, who was a little bit emboldened with a night of alcoholic drinking in his system, decided to go up against these men who just turned around and kinked him. And so he was on the ground thinking he was about to die as they kind of laid in on him. And the 3 drag queens basically stood up to the plate, ran through the crowd of the kebab store and pulled the aggressors off Ivan, and basically this scuttle happened in the bus lane of Oxford Street at sort of 2-3 a.m. in the morning. The moment was picked up because it was during the plebiscite, so it was all over the news and it was amplified quite a lot. And it was just one of those moments where, for our community, we felt we can't even be safe in Oxford Street. Where can we be safe? So it's an important story to sort of capture, to remind people about how we should treat each other, respect, and also the importance of inclusivity, and also the importance of stepping up for someone in need, because Ivan says it himself, he would have died that night, and if it wasn't for his drag guardian angels, he wouldn't be with us to tell this story.
And I was going to shout, wasn't it? I believe you had a lot of trouble getting an interview because Coco's obviously in high demand.
Yes. Coco was on season 1 of RuPaul's Drag Race, which in the drag world is a big deal. It's like the Drag Olympics. And so getting time with Coco, we talked about it for months. We booked in a date. On the first date where I had a full studio booked and everything ready to film, she cancelled at the last minute. Second one cancelled at the last minute. The third week, third attempt, she was like, I'm performing at 6 o'clock at this venue, so I'll arrive for 5, we'll have an hour before I perform. Of course, I get there early because I'm very punctual, I'm a good boy. And so I sit there for a very long time, till like 10 to 6, and finally Coco runs in and just kind of drags me out to the change room of Stonewall and says, okay, you've got 10 minutes. And I get set up, and in one hit she just delivers this story, which is the content I've got to work with. And as I walk out with my bag, she's literally on stage starting to do her thing for the night. So it was a very lucky window that I managed to work with and draw from for the next 9 months.
Wow.
I wanted to say that one of the reasons digital media, video has only been in the award for a couple of years, but I thought the work was a standout because I think there's a lot that goes down, well, there's a whole lot of things. The sophistication of the combination of the beautiful drawing and also the documentary material, the fact that this is about a really current issue. The issue that I think is the thing that strikes me, apart from the particular culture around Oxford Street, is that people in the community stepped up and stepped in when somebody else was in need. And I think we have to think quickly these days, and we need to step up. And that was, I think, a wonderful message. The video is very portable, and I'm hopeful it will be seen by lots and lots of different audiences. You're working on new work, and this is very, very labour intensive. You just want to tell people quickly what you do for your day job.
Oh, for my day job. So as through the day, I work as a curator for Waverley Council. So I work with the Bondi Pavilion down in Sydney, as well as a studio program, public art, and a library program. So that keeps me busy 35 hours a week, and then I'm in the studio whatever other time I can.
And you have been busy. And Todd, huge congratulations for being the winner of the Sunshine Coast National Art Prize for 2024. It's a really fine work. So a round of applause. Any questions for Todd before we? Okay, I'm running over with the mic.
Thank you, Julie. Todd, I'd just like to ask, is it totally analogue or part digital? I mean, your end product is digital, obviously, but your drawings, are they digital or analogue?
It is entirely hand drawn, so every single frame is drawn on a piece of paper. Just got a mic say it's entirely hand drawn, so literally there's a piece of paper on the wall, the camera's in front of me, I make a mark, take a photo, make a mark, take a photo.
Or
So,
2,400.
yeah,
Amazing.
so there's a little bit of like cross fades and the digital manipulation at the end stage, but minimal. It's a pretty analog process.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So everybody up there keep drawing.
So what do you do with your drawings?
That's a great question.
Just of interest.
The question was, what do we do with the drawings? So the joy about this medium and the way it works is at the end of the process, I get the video, but I also get the suite of pieces of paper, and they have all these remnants. So I get to work back into it and decide what each individual page looks like as a finished artwork. So often a project will have the video artwork and then also all the support materials that generates the piece that I get framed up or pinned on a wall or whatever we do with it.
Just with the one, Amanda, you get a special question because you're a finalist, and then we have to move on.
I'm just wondering what scale of the drawings?
They're all 57 by 75, so
Wow.
full sheet.
That's
Whoa.
huge. That's a lot of drawing. A lot of paper.
Well, it's actually only 16 pages. So the comment was it's a lot of pages, but because I'm rubbing out and redrawing, it's not as many pieces of paper as
So good quality paper.
good thick GSM.
And just graphite.
Charcoal, which is more forgiving and malleable.
Okay, these are good technical questions. This is excellent. Alsa, it's you next. Todd, thank you, and huge congratulations. Now we're going over here, and Alsa McHugh is going round the outside, like a proper Buffalo girl. There she is. Here is the next. There she is. She's gone round the outside. Alsa McHugh, living in Naarm, Melbourne, has done this wonderful work called Newman. Please do come around. Let's get in here. And we're going in one direction, so it's kind of moderately orderly, and there's more stools. I wanted to ask, there's a couple of questions to ask Alsa. I'm going to ask her to speak about her work. But the most important thing is to say, how did you set up these two photographs? Where do you find your models? What's the dialogue with the people? And can you start from there, and then we can ask questions and get you to expand a little bit on the work, and I'll get around the outside.
Sure. Well,
Alsa McHugh, everybody.
hi. Thanks, everyone.
Alsa got the highly commended.
Thank you. Yeah. So actually, I don't take the photographs. Oh, I don't take. Was that better?
Yep.
Hear me? Yeah, I don't take the photographs. They're all found images.
Okay, that's important to know.
Yeah. So the original images are probably, about that big. And when I first started working with collage, it was all analog. So I'd cut every little piece out and use them, but I was frustrated by the scale of it. So yeah, these have been digitally scanned and then layered over images of architecture that have also had, the orientation shifted. So the background images aren't the way they, were intended to be.
What's the source?
The source, where do I find
Yeah, where do you find them?
Okay, so here we go, confession time. I have, a bit of a hoarding problem with books. I've got a lot of books. And these came, the background images were actually from an architecture book of architecture in Japan. And then the two figures were from a dance, book on dance, contemporary dance. Yeah.
The next thing is to explain the process, the actual making of the collage of the photograph and the dye sublimation process.
Okay, sure, yeah. So the collage process, I briefly explained before, is done in Photoshop. So all the images are scanned and then put into Photoshop, and I spend hours and hours and hours, getting the images right. Often I will try lots of different combinations. With these images in particular, I've probably got maybe 100 different combinations of different architecture, the figures over different images, and it often takes a while for it to settle and for me to work out what is working and be happy with it. And then in terms of the dye sublimation, printing onto aluminium, it's the image is enlarged and it's printed onto a film that is then heat pressed onto aluminium. And where the kind of silver is coming through, that's where the white was in the images.
So the image is embedded, as it were, bonded.
Bonded, that's right.
Bonded.
Heat bonded, yeah. So it's sort of like onto a film. The image is printed in reverse onto a film, and then it's heat pressed onto the aluminium. So it's kind of like a very thin, film on there. And I think the original kind of intention of this process was for commercial use.
And why that rather than say a photographic print? Why the aluminium?
Well, the aluminium, I think something starts to shift psychologically when it's on this surface. I've done a lot of printmaking and printing onto paper, but I really wanted to get away from, for this in particular, having a frame and the image being bound in this sort of structure. And the images are floating. Are they floating or falling? And I just think it kind of adds to the impact of the piece that these works are kind of floating on the wall themselves. Yeah, I'm a bit obsessed with the aluminium. There's lots of different finishes you can do, and they're getting some good money out of me. It's probably where the money's going to go for the prize. Print to metal in Melbourne.
So now I want you to talk to us about the title, because the title is very specific. It's Newman, and it sort of goes to that thing about floating or falling or the place in which these people exist, as it were.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this was I started having a lot of conversations with my sister, actually, who has a lived experience of schizophrenia. And we always have these really incredibly beautiful conversations that are not, just small talk. She's always like straight in, deep, this is what I'm reading, this is what I'm thinking about. And she kind of put me on to, this idea of a numinous experience. And it's something that, it's hard to define what a numinous experience is, but I guess it's sort of, it can be goosebumps, or, when something serendipitous or a coincidence happens, the feeling that you get in your body that feels like something outside of the everyday human experience. It's not kind of, stuck in that day-to-day grind. It's something that sort of kind of lifts your spirit, or can also, simultaneously make you feel overwhelmed, or so that's what this work was about, was trying to kind of a visual representation of that feeling.
the Newman word has to do with boundaries, doesn't it? And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very cheap shot, but out of body experience, you know, is the phrase that just came to mind when I was looking at these works. I thought it was what I thought when I started to give the highly commended was there was clearly these kind of, especially in this case, there's some with the woman, there's some kind of ecstatic or peculiar experience, but I thought that Alsa had handled the images with very beautiful restraint. You know, it was something about the collectedness and the restraint with which she had engaged with this that really attracted me. I thought it was extraordinarily interesting. Any other? You work with printmaking as well.
Yeah.
Just talk to us a little bit about where this sits in the rest of your practice, and then I'll ask if people have questions.
Sure. Well, this is sort of, I'll try and be as quick as I can. I actually studied sculpture. I didn't ever do any kind of 2D work. And starting to work, you know, with images was something that happened when my son was about 3 years old. And it was the accessibility of being able to be on a kitchen table and have images. I wasn't making these huge sculptures, didn't have to clean up. And Jethro was quite into it as well. He's actually a better artist than I am, but you know, he's 10, so one day. So that, and then through that process, I think I was talking about, you know, working with these quite small images, I wanted to scale them up. And then in terms of now moving on to printing into aluminium, I guess it's like an exploratory thing. I'm always interested in printing or trying out new surfaces. I've done photogravure printing onto photo rag. It's just always about pushing the materiality and trying to find new ways of presenting the work. You know, in the future, I really want to, you know, etch into the aluminium or start, you know, doing some home art making. I think that answered the question.
So you really are aluminium crazy?
Yes, very much so, very much.
I mean, seriously, you're working with the material and
Yeah.
seeing how you can push it and pull it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Alsa? Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, hello.
Thank you, Alsa. It was lovely chatting with you last night.
Yeah.
Your work is amazing and haunting. Aluminium question.
Yes.
Can everyone hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed on your Instagram the highlights are a lot whiter and they're not as white on the other. Was that intentional?
Okay, so this is the thing. Can you see how reflective this is?
Yeah.
It's an absolute nightmare to photograph. So the images on my Instagram are actually just the digital originals. Yeah, so very well observed there. Because the photographing it is very, very difficult. When I have exhibitions, the photographer has to kind of do it from a side angle, so there's a bit of distortion. Thank you. Yeah.
I have to say, last night I had a moment when I thought, is this actually a lenticular photograph? But it's not. It's just the way, you know, where there's two lenses and you can see, you know, like those cheap cards where you can, the artists have used them sometimes for a fantastic effect on big photographs. In fact, there's somebody from Queensland who does it, who lived in Toowoomba, who's very, very good with that technique. But it's not. It's just that the light is really kind of reflecting, but that adds to the other world in it. So I think. Any more questions for Alsa?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
So have you coped with copyright of photographs you've used from yours?
Well, there's a time frame on those sorts of things. So as long as the image is, you know, a certain number of years old, but also there's a bit of kind of fluidity there in that, you know, if you alter the image or, you know, so these images, if you were to see the original, you wouldn't recognise them. Yeah, but also I hope no one comes after me one day.
So I just want to ask.
No, it's a good question, but.
So I just was really interested in the surface that you use. Do you actually want the audience to become part of it because of the reflection in it?
Totally, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you become a float up.
Yeah, kind of like a mirror as well, and just that thing. I think it printing onto paper when I was doing this, the staticness of the image was frustrating, but as Julie said, when you move around it, the light reflects off it and it sort of feels like it's moving. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, this will have to be really quick because we're going to run
And
out
it
of time.
doesn't have another surface on it, it's just the aluminium that creates that reflection.
And it's polished.
Okay.
It's polished.
It's extremely beautiful and very, very beautifully done. Big congratulations to Alsa.
And thanks to Julie and everyone else.
And now I want to invite Kellie O'Dempsey, who's come, because I wanted to ask any artist who was here, this is Kellie's work here, and the title of the work is Wish You Were Here in Pink, with a capital, with eyeball fish. So there's a very straightforward kind of direction, but I wanted to ask you about this amazing combination of different modes that you're working with, and talk to us about why you want to make everything so. Tell me why it has to be in these forms and not in any others. How did it happen?
Thank you very much, Julie. I'd just like to say I'm so excited to be able to be hanging with this group of artists right now, and congratulations to the winners. It's so well deserved. I think I'm the kind of person that likes to push against any kind of boundaries, and the frame is a particular boundary that I think sometimes offers too much restraint. So I'm a collage artist as well. I'm a drawer first, a collage artist, and love working in sort of animation and video. So somehow this is a combination of a work that I have been working on for a while called Wish You Were Here. It's a series where I actually sort of fill the gallery with lots of different collage and projections and things like that. And this particular orientation came out of a show I had at Jane Manton Gallery. So the idea that I think I'm really interested in how that the flat and the framed can actually exist in one plane together as one work, and combine it. I really like the idea of the fragmentation, but then I'm always challenged to how to bring it together as a whole group, almost like a script or a dialogue where it actually moves across different panels, but they all talk together and fall into each other. So I guess collage is about bringing the disparate together in some form, in my mind, and to be able to bring that together in Wish You Were Here, which was essentially about that point of that you described before as the out-of-body experience from exhaustion, from, in this case, was looking after an elderly parent and trying to hold down a practice and a job and all those sorts of things, and where everything just became surreal, strange, and I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. So that was how this balance is, and then I think through disparate materiality, I try and bring that strangeness together.
Yeah. Didn't we talk about film when I talked?
We did, yes.
At the launch.
Yes. So I mean, I went to art school and did drawing as a major, and then a number of years later went to film and television school and did animation. So it continues to inform my work of the moving space, and I think offering probably multiple ways to understand or different angles to understand that sort of like maybe one concept.
I have to say, I find one of the things I found really interesting about this show is that it's embraced a variety of different 2D media. So photograph, drawing, collage, painting, video. It embraces the breadth of the ways that artists are working today. And so I think this is absolutely admirable, because I'm going to tell you, I have judged other prizes called art prize, but actually they're clearly only for painting. And we have wonderful painting here, but including, in some of the works, that you see around you. But the fact that this prize and this gallery is able to respond to whatever people are doing, I think is one of the things that makes this prize very, very amazing. Has anybody got any questions for Kellie? This is such an engaging work, and it's such a curious thing, and with such beautiful different ways of making things. Any questions for Kellie about her work? Oh, at the back we've got Todd. Todd, you
Kellie, this feels like a very little edit of a very larger installation.
Yeah.
Would you mind talking a little bit more about how the bodywork existed in a broader space or context?
It is, Todd, it's a larger work called Wish You Were Here, and it is a full room or multiple room installation that is a light installation. So the whole room would be influenced by lights. This particular line here is actually a neon light that then actually traces all around the room in multiple sort of warm colours and then throws a hue across the whole space. So you move through this space and the walls is as affected and the floors and the people moving through the space are affected and their colour has changed. So inviting the audience to actually then, well, they're not even invited, they walk in and they experience a different state. The lighting state actually shifts them in some fashion, as lights do, we know, from dark to night. So this is actually originally a video of the installation itself, and then I've taken it back into video, which was manipulated to make, and then I've taken it back into software and re-edited it and reanimated it and layered it. So this piece of collage is this piece of collage videoed. So it's kind of, I like to create sort of continuums and loops. I think it's a form of hypnosis that I'm just trying to spellbind people in some way.
I've got one last question and then we're going to move around the corner.
It looks like, sorry Kellie, it's like to hold you there. I really noticed between Todd's work and your work this use of the colour pink, and I wonder why you've chosen the colour pink. Todd's shoes are pink. His goody two shoes are pink. There's such symbolism in that colour, and I know this work is about gender, and I'd love to hear more.
Thanks, Karina. It is about gender. It comes down to my conversation with the unseen labour of women in domestic spaces and undervalued space. So in order to sort of encapsulate that, and we know that colour is gendered and has been gendered for a number of years. So the pink is a definite nod to, acknowledging how women cope or not cope in the situation of being undervalued and have weighed down by work that is unseen and undervalued. Thank you.
Thank you, Kellie. It's really fantastic. Hyun, where are you? Can you, Hyun, we're going to have to go around. Now, you're all going to have to move into this tiny wee space and be very disciplined.
Yeah, just watch your backs against the works, guys.
Yeah, try not to lean against the paintings, folks. And if you can just keep coming around, and then we'll stay in this space because Amanda's work is on the same wall. So, welcome to our slightly smaller space. Has everybody got a chair who needs one, or is bringing a stool? There's plenty of room over here in front. Do please come over. Stool people, down the front please.
So you can get quite close.
You can come in closer, yes please. Yes, excellent, we've got movement. Fantastic. Australian audiences, we always like a long, they're not going to be right up to you. Yeah, I know that. I call it the cordon sanitaire. There's always, no one ever sits in the front row, you know? Where is Hyun Hee? I lost him now. Okay, everybody, this is a wonderful Hyun Hee Lee, and you're going to see more of her on the coast because Hyun Hee was awarded the Residency Award. And I had visions of you staying at Montreal and driving around in the BMW that goes with the Residency Award, because I know that you really enjoy spending time with beautiful natural environments, which is here. But at the moment we want you to talk about this particular fragments of memory and talk to us about your work and how it started and how you came to make this work. So I'm going to pass straight to you.
Very nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Julie Lee. I just talk to you about my general art practice first. My works inspired from my very personal memories and my experience from my lifetimes. And show through, express through the religious practice and rituals and the religious idea into my work.
In Korea, or with
My memories and experience.
Yeah.
From
Korea?
Korea, where I grew up. Particularly, let me introduce first. I migrated from South Korea to Australia about 20 years ago, and then I have a great feeling of roots and nostalgia about my home and my culture and family, same as all other diaspora. Then I started to write about my feelings and memories into my diary. So diary essays is more likely, my hope and the growing, and that kind of process was very cathartic to me and meditative and comfort to me. Then there was the sort of, I started to write in Korean language into my work. So all my works involve with Korean text. So if you can see here, can you see any Korean text?
Not easily.
Yeah.
But these blocky forms.
Yeah, that's right. I've been as an art practice for more than 10 years. After finish graduate National Art School in Sydney and UNSW in Sydney for my master research. Then since then to now, I always used Korean text, which is very important to me because it's connect me to my culture emotionally and spiritually, to my culture and family. So I want to establish connection. In my previous works, more you can see more like my drawing and painting. You can see more Korean text, more calligraphy way. But my father was established calligrapher in Korea. And I think I influenced from my father's because I grew up watching his calligraphy, and then also my house has all kind of Korean traditional script painting. So my works quite inspired and influenced from that what I saw when I was childhood. So my painting and drawing, my previous one, which is not much here, can see my calligraphy techniques, which is I developed on my way with my hand script. And then I cut it off, then I put it in painting, that I repainted. That sort of work, can you imagine? So I was writing over and over again. So all like a Korean text, but if Korean see my work, they can't read about my text because it was probably my kind of secret word. Maybe not much secret. If I usually normally writing about kind of a Buddhist mantra. I have to talk about that because I'm also Buddhist and Catholic as well, which is I grew up with Buddhist background, and then I migrated to Australia. I converted to Catholicism, but then I found that two religions, which is Buddhist and Catholic, showing about two kind of a culture, which is I find very interesting because as a Korean, doesn't matter how much you are a religious person, we grew up just as a Buddhist environment, whether you like or not. in Korean culture. And then I find the Western culture is more like the Christian culture have, like Christmas and Easter. I think the big holiday, that's all come from the religious background. Doesn't matter you like or not. So
Could I ask a question? Do you always work in monochrome, like in one colour on white? Is that the typical for you? Because I was thinking about the calligraphy, which maybe is, the Japanese call it, sumi. So it's black on white. And do you always go to two colours like this, or is this just this one work?
okay, I have my solo show just about six months ago in Atelier Gallery in Sydney, where I represented. That was I starting to use negative shape from my writing. Before that, I normally use just positive shape from my text card, but then this one I use the negative side and positive as well. So why? Because I find that I influenced this work from my adulthood, which is very important and influenced on me where I am. I think adulthood was very important. And then I used the poem, which is very much influenced on me when I was in adulthood, which is this particular works. Poem title is You Came to Me and Become a Flower. There was the Korean poet, very famous Korean poet. Title is that. So that's why you can see the kind of color with the title. So I actually did that in painting, which is I had a show. Then I developed from the painting to drawings.
So there is a direct relationship between, as you're saying, the calligraphy, but this is made over differently.
Also, no, I used calligraphy and then cut, and then I saw the negative shade, which is, I think, I find it in my life, everyone I think all have experience and on your life, but positive and negative you experience in your life, I find that positive and negative all important and influence on you where you are in your life. So I find that there are nothing to throw away. So everything was so important. That's why I use the positive and negative shape into my work. So become a new story in my work.
I was going to say that is, in a sense, an overarching, at least a reaching towards some idea of harmony, I think, or resolution, yes?
Yes.
We have to move on in a minute. I'm just so fascinated to hear what you've had to say. But any questions for Hyun? Oh, Elizabeth.
Hello. I just wondered, because women were not recognised as artists in Korea originally, and when you left 20 years ago, it was just starting. Men always were in the traditional sense, and the society was very misogynistic in many ways. So have you found it easier to write, to paint here, or?
You mean here?
Yeah.
In Western culture?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I actually find the opposite, because as my work is it's all come from my longing and nostalgia about my culture and home, especially migrating to Australia. If I still living in Korea, probably I haven't got much the same feeling like now. Yeah. So which way is very lucky I am, so I can express my work, I can express about my feelings, the sort of emotions through my work. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions quickly for Julie?
Yes. Is it legible? Could you read some of it and
Can you
so
read?
we'll know what it says?
Okay.
Your favourite one?
Yeah.
Or
So
two
it,
or line?
yeah. actual words writing is come from real text, but I using as an unreadable way. Yeah.
So not really.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's why the title Fragments of Memory makes sense to me, because it's like things.
Exactly. So memory is unreliable. It's very vague.
You can see it's got overlaid tissue. You can see through it. It's it's delicate. You forget it. Yeah.
Thank you. I will say that we're very lucky that she's actually going to be here next year, and we'll do the artist in residency, and there will be a workshop. So make sure you keep an eye on our website, because we have to do all that negotiations. But we're so looking forward to having her come and work more in our environment and see whether that impacts on her work. And
Hyun,
delve
thank
more
you.
in.
Thank you so much. And our last, I was going to say victim. The last person for today is Amanda Weston, who, I'll give it to you, who you chose, and the people chose wisely. Amanda won the People's Choice Award for her fabulous Country Lane, this enormous and extremely interesting and very challenging lino cut. So I'm going to ask Amanda to speak about it. And if there are any printmakers in the audience, okay, be ready.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and particularly the affirmation of People's Choice. It's perfect for me because I have chosen printmaking as my medium of choice because I believe it's the people's medium. It's the way that you can create artworks and make original artworks, and because of the editioning process, you can keep the prices at a reasonable level so that people can access it. So the People's Choice is actually, it's my ultimate gift back to me, because that's exactly what I'm trying to achieve, is work for the people. And also it emanates from a lot of work that I've done professionally in emergency management. So I assist people after disasters. I go in, well, I have, I'm not now, I'm working full time as an artist, but previously after a disaster, whether it be fire, flood, in some small communities, if there's been a bus accident and many people in the community have been injured or even killed, I go in and I support the community in terms of their recovery. So a lot of my work is about healing, and that has really influenced my subject matter. Because a lot of the work I do also is about helping the people through healing their environment, because a lot of these natural disasters decimate country. So I find the most effective way of assisting people is to actually work with them to try to restore, whether it be replanting or creating nest boxes to go into the trees to enable endangered species to keep off the ground and get up into the canopy and all those sorts of things. And that empowers people in their recovery because it's action that they can take. So this sort of work is typically my subject matter, the environment, and I create it to try to provide people with a healing artwork. So basically all of my artwork has, apart from, I've done a series on birds, obviously, because that's a huge part, again, of the recovery of environments, is to look after our bird life. But everything that's to do with the actual environment, the landscape, I create in a very much a perspective. Now, with the idea that people can actually feel themselves walking into the artwork. So, I find that that's really, it appeals to people because they can rest in it. So people that have purchased this art piece, there's 10 in the edition, so
there's none left.
So the people that I know that have purchased the artwork have said it's so calming, and they have it in their room where they can actually sit just in an easy chair or something like that, and they'll be reading, and then they can lift their eyes up, and they find that they get immersed, and it's quite relaxing, and that's exactly what I want to achieve. I'm trying to provide healing. And I came to this art form particularly through my own healing journey as well, because you can imagine it's very stressful work. You do carry other people's journeys with you when you're working with people that are hurting. And I had some personal difficulties as well, so I found the beauty of the medium of lino cut is so therapeutic. It's so physical. And I find the artwork...
No. I was going to say, maybe for people who don't know how to lino cut,
Yes.
you want to do a video.
Yeah, sure. So this is the outcome, okay? The artwork, I say, is my block. So I pour myself into the physicality of a block. And Julie mentioned how big it is. I find when I work small, because obviously I started small scale, but I really love that, and you can, sort of get into focus and so forth. But when you're working on a piece like this, it is huge to physically get yourself over it. And I'm back and I'm forward, and I'm back and I'm forward. I'm physically moving a lot. And my arms, my hands, and I have to take my glasses off. I've got quite rubbish eyesight. But to get the detail, I had to take my glasses off. And I'm literally, if this was laying down as my block, my lino block, I'm with my glasses off and I'm here. And I do that, for hours.
I'm more worried about your wrist.
Yeah, I do. Well, I see a hand therapist. Actually, I see a hand therapist on a weekly basis. So I'm
talk about that.
Yeah, I'm frequently, and the tools are so important. Any printmakers here, you have to get the best tools you possibly can afford, and you need to build up the shaft. Because if you're working like that, you'll get ganglions, you'll damage these joints. You need to build them up so you've got this sort of seam. There's a lot of physical technique involved in printmaking, but that is the joy it brings to me, because that is the healing for me, and I'm trying to create something that is healing for other people in the outcome. So,
And the white
Yes,
is the stuff removed.
That's the question I was about to ask.
Okay.
You just need to talk about the white and
It's
the
a double negative, so it's really interesting. My young son has just got a job as an engineer, so he's still at uni, but he's a junior engineer. And on his first day, he asked for some time off to go to Sydney, because I'm in a finalist in the Hornsby Art Show, and he wanted to come to that. And his boss said, yeah, why do you want to go with your mum? And she's a lino printmaker. And his boss, who's an engineer, said, I'm a lino printmaker. And then he said, and my boss, the senior engineer, is a lino printmaker. And it's really interesting because of the double negative. Spatially, it's really quite challenging. Because what you're doing is you're working in a mirror image, obviously, because you're creating something here, you put it on, you lift it up, it's completely mirrored. And that's really important if you're using text, because that will show you up pretty quick. But also you're working in negative as in you're carving away the image you want to leave. So I did a lot of illustration and calligraphy as a kid, or drawing and calligraphy as a kid. That's, you're positive, you're drawing what you want to see. This is completely the opposite. You're cutting away, you're leaving what you want printed. Healing people, healing environment. Conservation is a huge element to it. So I included a couple of marsupials, and I thought 9 birds.
Yeah, but there's more, isn't it?
Yeah. So I had this exhibited in Ballarat, and I did my spiel, and I said, look, there's 9 birds in here if anyone wants to try to find them. And so I was wandering around, and then this little boy, he would have been about 10, came up to me and he said, you lied. And I said, what? And he said, there's 11 birds. And so he took me over there and he counted them out. I went, actually, you're all right, that's incredible. And his mum came over so embarrassed because he was pretty rough on me. And she said, I'm so sorry, he's autistic, but he just takes those things so seriously. And seriously, he had picked up a couple that, could very well be birds, so that's lovely.
I was going to say it takes a particular kind of head to be a printmaker. There's no question. I mean, when I was looking at Margaret Preston, printmakers like difficulty.
Yes.
They like a sort of thing to go, a challenge to go through. There has to be something to go through, like a screen or a hedge or something. I mean, but it's a very particular way of looking at the world. Who's got questions for? Oh, here we go. We've got time for a couple of questions before we round up.
Congratulations, it's stunning.
It's stunning.
Was it taken from a drawing or a photograph?
It was taken. Okay. This is actually a laneway very close to my home in Ballarat. It's in Bunningham, and I had I created one from a drawing, not this one, that was one of my earlier prints of a landscape, and it got a lot of positive feedback from the community. Lots of people said, "Oh, that's so beautiful," and I loved it too. And I thought, okay, that's given me the courage, I'm going to go big. I'm going to try something really challenging. And then I thought, oh boy, where? And then I've been going up and down this laneway for like 6 or 7 years with one of my boys, to his best mates. And one day I was driving back, and it just dawned on me. I just went, this is the landscape. So I took about, 50 photos back and forth, walked back and forth to get for me, the perspective has now come in. This was my first perspective line-out print, and I needed to get that right. And I knew I wanted people to feel what I was feeling when I was there, and suddenly I was in it, and I thought, how do I capture this? So I seriously took like 50 photos of it, and then because I don't know my phone, went through until I found the perspective I was happiest with. And I was explaining to Julie yesterday, I'm challenged with, with technical, the composition is critical to me, and I know that it's something I've really got to work on. That's really challenging. And so part of me wanted the vanishing point to be on the third and all that sort of stuff. So, I played with all of that until I got it right. And then I blocked it onto the block, the coloured areas. I made sure that I had the shadowing right, and so that became the technical challenge, to get that on the block. And then once you do that, I could just go, oh thank goodness, that's the hardest bit for me. And then I just roll. I just go into the flow. And seriously, I'll carve for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Yeah. I know, it's not good, and I don't recommend it for anyone. But I get into that zone, that is just, I get up all the time. Like I'm saying, I'm physical. You can't go like that and know what you're doing. You've got to get dexterous. No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, is there one last question?
Yeah, sorry, they are being picked up at 5 past, so we just need
one last question from anybody. Any burning questions for the fabulous Amanda Weston from Ballarat, Victoria? I wanted to say I want to thank all the 5 artists who've spoken to us today. It's extraordinary how generous you all are with your ideas and your stories and your histories and your motivations. And if I found you all, Hyun, Kellie, Todd, Alsa, and Amanda. We've heard about all sorts of life experiences that have motivated the work through what people have said today. So, this was supposed to be judges' comments. I'm here to listen to the artists and to thank them for speaking so generously to us. Thank you. And thank you for being such a great audience.
Did anybody have any questions we can do 1 or 2 for the judge or for the artist, just quickly? Nothing? Okay, so from my point of view, it's been a spectacular exhibition. Every year I say, oh, this is my favourite, but I have to say this is my favourite. Honestly, the quality of work that we have on the wall is outstanding, and I was so glad that we didn't have to judge, because the quality, each artwork is almost at the epitome of the absolute best making that an artist can do. I'm not even talking about the content and the information that sits within the works, and all the works are layered, has lots of conversations for anybody who stands in front of them and gives them the time to talk back to them. So we've been really extraordinarily lucky to have such a crop of extraordinary Australian artists, contemporary Australian artists, which is what we love about this prize. And then to have such a fabulous work coming into the collection, we're so excited. I can't tell you how excited we are. We've done a happy dance since we heard. We're really, it's an amazing prize, this prize. This will be our 18th work that comes in, and we've got 18 fabulous artists from the start to now that tell about what's happening in our world at that point in time. And so for a collection, just by itself, is an extraordinary collection. Julie, you've been a fabulous judge. We've been so thankful to have you here with your experience. And our artists, thank you. I too would like to say thank you. Very generous. I mean, it's always daunting. You have to put your artwork on the wall, and then we make you stand in front of it and talk to it. So, artists are extraordinary people unto themselves, and they do this out of love, passion, something that sits inside them where they have to you know, it's amazing because people sit and judge and look, and it's a terrifying thing. I couldn't do it. That's why I do this. So thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a really safe day, and thank you all for coming.